Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining on this very first live stream of Bunny Studios Gaming Wednesday. I apologize in advance for the brightness. It was actually we had a thunderstorm this morning. I didn't expect this much sun, but it is what it is. So you might be wondering what this Gaming Wednesday live stream is all about, and it's basically, Bunny Studio, we've been working with video game content developers since we were born in 2012. We've helped game studios, agencies, indie game developers, video creators, bloggers, YouTubers, but we've never really focused on a particular group of people, such as the gaming community, whether you're the creator or the player. So we've been wanting to learn more about the gaming community, and by doing this, also promoting all of our content creators. So Gaming Wednesday now on live stream will basically be interviewing and promoting some of the people that have been doing creating content related to video games with us or in our ecosystem for the past couple of years. Today, we're going to start with one of our community members who has been creating video games for the past 7 years, has worked in a couple of different projects, and now today, as part of, or the creator and the solo entrepreneur in Darkania Works, is about to launch a very interesting game, a horror game. It's described as an adventure game. I call it a purely horror game, to be honest. I'm super excited for George to tell us a little bit more about that. So, welcome, and I hope you enjoy. George, you can unmute yourself now. Sorry about that. No, yeah, you're live now.
Hello.
Hello, how are you? How's it going?
Fine, just unmuted my mic.
Yeah, sorry about that. I forgot to tell you about it.
Problem.
So, how you been? Where are you right now?
I'm in my beautiful home from Romania.
Okay. What time is it?
It's 8 p.m.
8 p.m. Okay, so we have quite a different time zone, but that's great. Thank you so much for joining us. As we've talked in the past, I took a look at the project that you're working on. It looks amazing. So I wanted you to share more about, first let's start with who you are, what you do, and what you've been up to.
Well, my name is George Remus Poiană. I'm from Romania, from Iași especially, and I'm 28 years old, and I'm a game developer and visual artist, I like to think, because my background is in visual arts. And I'm developing a video game. I worked on one game before, which was released to very positive reviews on Steam. And that's pretty much everything about me.
Awesome.
There's not a lot of stuff to be said about me.
We'll see about that once we start looking at the game. So right now you're a team of one, correct? Developing this project?
Yeah.
And how's that been? So when did you start with this project?
Well, it's been great. It's fantastic. So how the project started? After I worked on Grey Dawn and the game released, there's been some changes in the company where I worked. And we kind of split our ways. We parted our ways because I wanted to go more on the same type of games, and that meant that I had to take it on my own, and that's how I started doing it. I wanted to know more, especially because I only was creating visual assets and just wrote stories. I decided to make more. I thought I can do it, and I tried, and let's hope it will come out pretty good.
Absolutely. And when did the journey start? When did you start working on this one?
Almost a year ago. Almost a
Okay,
year ago. Yeah.
it's awesome. And how's it been so far with the recent worldwide events as a solo
Uh,
entrepreneur?
it's the same as usual. Being like kind of isolated, working from home because I'm working from home. There isn't much of a difference. I assume you are talking about the pandemic that
Yes.
is destroying the world. It's not a huge difference. Maybe because in Romania we weren't as affected as much as other countries were.
Yeah. No.
That's what I think. And plus, it's not much, not a huge difference. I worked from home before, and that's what I'm doing from now on.
Yeah, I think it's a great advantage that being used to working from home. In the case of Bunny Studio, we've also been working from home since the get go, and despite being in about 14 different countries, our team, it's been very helpful. Already being used to working from home.
Mm-hmm.
And what sort of tools have you been using to make that work from home more efficient, so to speak, especially as a one person team?
Well, it's not really a new thing for me. Everything I'm doing on this game, aside from the programming part, so I'm using free software, um, and just trying to do the game. It's not as complex as people might think. Of course, I have the prior experience of working on another game, a few years of work. That gives me the confidence that I can do it. That's the main tool, let's say, the confidence that I might be able to do it in the end.
And how did you come to the idea of this game that we're talking about, Last Days of Lazarus? Like, how did it come up?
Well, that's kind of a long journey. I was always attracted to the dark side of the things. I was attracted to horror. I got a few things besides me. Kind of everything kind of started when I was younger, around the age of 13, yeah, 13 years old. When I didn't have a computer, and my father bought me something from the
Oh
from the
wow.
local shop. Yeah, that's from 20 2008. It's an old magazine from 2008, and was dedicated to the horror games that were released until then. That's Heather from Silent Hill. And I
Yes.
didn't know anything about video games back then in 2008. I didn't have a computer, as I told you. I was used to writing stories. I had the typewriter, a mechanical typewriter, on which I wrote my creepy stories. And when I got this magazine, I read it that night, and I was instantly attracted to this, and so I started writing stories inspired by the stories I read in this magazine. And later that year, I found this game
Oof.
at school. Someone forgot it
Oh
in a
wow.
classroom. Yeah, and I didn't know anything about Diablo. I really love Diablo, and it's actually in Spanish. It's a
Wow.
copy in
Okay.
Spanish. Yeah. Uh, so I was really happy. I had it for a while, for quite 3 4 years in my home. Never played it. I didn't know. I took a look on the screenshots, and I imagined that it has to be very cool, something really nice. And at some point, by the end of the high school, in the last years of my high school, I managed to actually afforded to buy a computer, and the first game I tried was this one.
Wow. Of course
So
you
yeah,
did.
I kind of started on a dark note, and obviously I searched those games on the internet, and I played them, and that's kind of how I started being attracted to this dark medium. Of course, I didn't knew about creating video games. I never imagined that one day I would start making video games. I wanted to be a movie director actually, and in the time when I was writing on my typewriter, I wrote a lot of short screenplays for short movies, and when I failed to enter at the faculty of movies to become a director, I tried visual arts in Romania, and it was a success. And here I am now. I finished the art school, and I started asking myself, what am I going to do with my life? Because painting and selling paintings in Romania, it's a big no. It never works. Only if you are a genius or you are blessed by God or God knows what. I learned a bit of Photoshop, a bit of design, and I entered in a company that actually hired me as a designer. But then decided that they saw that I had imagination, vivid imagination, and they kind of started to work on a game. Actually, basically, they asked me to create a video game, which I had absolutely no idea how to do it. I was like literally, and there I met my ex co-workers, ex teammates with whom I worked on Grey Dawn, and the story was that they were really good. They were really passionate about this, and we thought that if in this company the boss can do this game with us, we thought let's do it on our own. So we kind of split. We detached from the company, and we founded Interactive Stone was the name of the company, and our first huge project that kind of set the company like on a pedestal in the Romanian game development industry was Grey Dawn. We started working on a game called Grey Dawn, a game kind of similar to Last Days of Lazarus. It was a first-person adventure game with a story written by me, the visuals created by me, and most of the game design.
Awesome.
That's it. And with Last Days of Lazarus, as I already mentioned, it was kind of the same idea. I wanted to do more, and I kind of went my own way. And that's kind of it.
That's pretty cool story. So you had this interest, this passion about video games because of this, because of how things happen, and you got a magazine, then you got a game that you got to play like 5 years later, 4 years later, and then eventually you were in a spot, you were in the right place at the right time where someone asked you to, with a team, build a video game, which is pretty lucky, to be honest. Like it's pretty interesting because if right now you're doing it and it's something that you really enjoy, then it set you up for a success. Like even if it was a smaller step or whatever, I think it was a really good push. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so for Last Days of Lazarus, could you give me a little bit of context, or give our viewers a little bit of context of the game before we show them the amazing new trailer?
Yeah, so these times I'm more in reading Dostoevsky, so the game has kind of emerged after reading a bit of Dostoevsky, and I always actually was interested in a combination, in creating stories that are a combination between religion, politics, and actually about the human nature. That's kind of how how the game came to me. I wanted to actually have my own product like Grey Dawn, because like Grey Dawn actually it's not mine anymore, let's say, and I want to have this type of game, but actually to stand apart from that game. That's why Last Days of Lazarus goes a bit further in a matter of showcasing gore, let's say drama, horror, and stuff like this, but also featuring beautiful imagery inspired from the Eastern Europe and Eastern mysticism and the idyllic Romanian countryside and stuff like this. That's how it came to me.
So, do you usually start with, in your creative process of creating this game, or at least with Last Days of Lazarus, do you start with the storyline? Do you start with an idea of a character? How does that work?
Usually I imagine characters. I always had some type of generic characters in my head when I start to write a story or to draw something or to work on a game like Last Days of Lazarus. I'm kind of imagining what this character might be doing, what is his story. So I always had in my head a character of a guy that is really troubled. It's not contemporary to us. And I always imagine what is this character about? What was his life? What he's gonna do in a certain situation? How he's gonna deal with loss, with losing his child, with losing his mother, with losing, let's say, after killing someone, you know. And I imagined short stories, then I go further and further, and that's how the idea evolves. Other characters start emerging from those stories, and then I have to establish relations between the main character and the new ones that appear. That's what happens in Last Days of Lazarus, and I hope it's gonna be all right. I'm not gonna mess it up.
No spoilers yet. But what we'll do is that, we're gonna show our viewers the very recent trailer, most recent trailer. It's 2 minutes long. I do have to give some viewer discretion advisory disclaimer before we watch this. It is a horror game at the end of the day. Yes, so if some images might be disturbing, so if you're watching this with a child, just beware. Alright, so give me 1 second while we change this. Let me move things around. Alright. So right now we're looking at Darkania Works website, which is darkaniaworks.com. We'll be linking it later, but basically you can find the most recent information about Last Days of Lazarus and Darkania Works. You can watch the trailer, and you can also add the game to your Steam wishlist. So without further ado, Last Days of Lazarus, most recent trailer.
Lazarus, you need to come home.
Why? What happened?
It's Mom. She's dead. Oh my God, she hanged herself. Please come home quickly.
I had no desire to be there for the funeral, but I promised Ludmilla I'd come to see her before Christmas. Now that I'm here, where is she? And what the hell happened to this place?
We regret to inform you, but there are strange reports about abnormal activity all over the town. You are the least of our priority.
Did my father come through here after he abandoned us? I don't recognize this place at all. Everything has changed, not in a good way. I need to find out more, but I don't know how to explain this. I feel like I'm always one step behind him. There's this sense of uneasiness wherever I go. And these strange people making scandalous claims. It's difficult to trust them, but in the end, do I have a choice? Hello? Are you alone here? Where is everybody?
Don't be sad, dear brother. I have already forgiven you. My only fear is that you've been away for too long. Now, upon your return home, everything will seem overwhelming to you. Lazarus, I'm afraid you're too late. You always were so forgetful.
That was absolutely amazing. So I had actually watched a previous trailer, and it was much shorter, fewer details. But this is a lot of development, like so many details. How do you get into that? What was your thought process? How did it happen?
Well, it's my job after all.
Of course.
um, well, for me as an artist, it's the thing that I have to know how to do, and it wasn't that really difficult. It's almost a year of work, not the trailer, the content that I have in the video game right now. It's kind of halfway through. I had actually to stop this month to work on an official announcement that took me a lot of time and was really tedious and time consuming, and not really my cup of tea, but it has to be done because that's how it is. There is no other way. And yeah, right now the game is halfway through in the stage of the game development, and you know what, I had a huge advantage because let's say half of the content that I have in the game I didn't made it. I bought actually packages of with assets, like what you see in the apartment. Most of it, it's actually bought from a real marketplace because while I could do it perhaps even better looking, it would have taken me a lot of time. Or so I just went to the marketplace. I actually really found something that actually interested me. I found post-Soviet asset, which was really cool. I said, hey, it looks
Perfect.
it's exactly what I want. Let's buy it. And that night I was working on the scene on my computer, and I was placing furniture, paintings on the walls, choosing the wallpaper pattern and stuff like this.
That's awesome.
That's it. And yeah, it's easier when you try to do like kind of generic looking horror stuff. It's easy to find assets on marketplace, and with this approach you can easily fall on the asset flip slope, let's say.
Yes.
Many people can consider the game actually being an asset flip, but it's not. I mean, it's not in the classic sense that an asset flip is, because for example, all the environmental scenes with the huge building in the background with flowers, and that's everything created by me.
Wow.
So with on the characters I did a lot of work. So it's a combination. When you do it all by yourself, it's a combination. The end result has to be consistent, not to look disjointed. That's what happens with most of the asset flips, except from the fact that most of them are really bad asset flips. They do not look consistent. They do not feel consistent because they have really poor assets. Most of them are they take them for free on the stores, and that's why they look really cheaper. That's not what I want with Last Days of Lazarus. I'm really pretentious when we are talking about visual style, because that's actually my main job, and I want to be done right.
Exactly. Yeah, and I can imagine that you want to use whatever tools you have available to make your work easier, but that doesn't mean that you will sacrifice quality, correct?
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that's where
absolutely.
you have to be very cautious into putting things together so that it matches like a puzzle piece and doesn't look like a collage. I guess
Yeah,
that's what you meant.
exactly.
So we have a question here on our chat by Silver Cookie, and they ask,
Yeah.
"What engine did you use?" You mentioned it looks like Unreal Engine. So you did mention you
Yeah.
used the Unreal Marketplace. So
Yeah, it's Unreal Engine. Uh, it's easier for me as an artist because for me it's actually the first project when I started looking into programming, and I'm not actually coding because it's really creepy for me that thing. I'm using blueprints. So Unreal Engine, for those who don't know, they have visual scripting stuff on which you connect nodes with functions and stuff happens magically. So that's how I implement the assets in Unreal Engine. And again, it's Unreal Engine because it has a lot of library with assets, some of them free assets that look really good. They have a lot of uh, stuff and plugins that help artists achieve things that other in other engines would be really difficult, or the would need to take really specific steps, coding and stuff like this. For an Unreal Engine, is like really a matter of drag and drop in most of the cases.
Well, that's pretty good. So that actually connects to a question that I had because I also write a little bit on my spare time, and I do want to play around with one of these engines. So, would you recommend Unreal Engine for someone that doesn't have the experience coding or building something from scratch to play around with Unreal Engine versus other engines?
Absolutely, Unreal Engine. Now, let me say that I'm a really chaotic person. I'm really art technical. I'm not really good at stuff that it's about thinking about mathematics, about programming and stuff like this. Even at game design, I really suck when you have to think about numbers and stuff that, it's really for the programmers. But Unreal Engine with the blueprint system, it really comes in handy if you want to start like from zero. There are tons of tutorials, and it's quite really easy to achieve, you know, a minimum viable gameplay, let's say a minimum viable game. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that it's above my capacity of doing in programming. So I have a really good friend of mine that helps me working on the save and loading part, because I really cannot do it, and I don't understand, even though it's blueprint. So yeah, but if you want to do something really easy, really quick, you can do it with Unreal Engine blueprints, especially because they have a lot of templates. You can download templates for RPG games, for turn-based, for point and click. Even I use an adventure for a first-person horror adventure game, so I kind of have a blueprint with pretty much set up, and I have to customize stuff to my liking. So yeah, I definitely
Awesome.
recommend
That's
Unreal Engine.
that's very valuable feedback to consider when trying to start a new endeavor in in that
Hmm.
area. We have another question here in the chat. It says, "Why did you decide to go the solo dev route instead of trying to build a small team of complementary people, art, writing, music, etc.? Did you fear you lose control over your main vision of the game?"
Well, it depends on whom on your team. For example, on Great Dawn, I work with great guys. They really let me to express myself. I literally had almost no limits. But I don't know how it's in the Western world, but here in the Eastern Europe, it's mostly about the financial part. People don't work for free, and my budget for the game is little to none. So I don't have money to pay people. That's the short answer. And yeah, if thinking about the second part of the question, there are situations when you kind of really feel that you cannot express if you have an arrangement of other guys, let's say, if you have a team. There's a lot of stuff that can happen during the development. It depends. If you start suddenly to not have enough budget for the game, if you don't have enough budget, you find at some point halfway through the development that you simply don't have money. what you're gonna do. People have different tempers, people have different personalities, and they react very, very, very different in different situations. For example, that's kind of a personally statement. When we worked on Grey Dawn for the last year of the development, we kind of didn't have any money as to pay our own salaries. So for personal expenses, we had literally zero money. So we were really passionate about the project. So that was not a huge problem for us. We went through it. That wasn't a huge challenge, but other companies may have not made it through. So yeah, that's it. Really depends on whom you are working with.
That's a really great feedback and something to consider when looking into working in the industry, whether you're going solo or whether you're going with a team. And that brings up a question that I had. So once you release, whenever that is, what do you think will be the very next step in terms of the game's evolution? Are you looking to publish, redistribute? What are your thoughts on what comes after launch day?
Yeah, from my experience with Grey Dawn, it was a lot of work. You don't go to sleep, you don't go to partying after you release the game. There's going to be a lot of questions. There's going to be discussions opened on Steam, and people are going to report bugs, are going to report a lot of stuff, and you have to answer them. You have to keep the community close to you to answer each commentary. There's going to be a lot of emails from various people, some of them questionable. You have to check if they are really legit or not. There's going to on Grey Dawn we had tons upon tons of emails of people asking for keys, actually for review keys, and most of them were hoaxes, were like literally scammers. And that's in the first days. The next step will be obviously to, if there are huge problems, clearly to improve them. But we really aim to release the game on consoles. We think of Xbox and Switch, or Switch on and Xbox. It depends on how it is received, but we definitely plan to release on those two consoles.
Wow, those are some big steps. But so once you release, do you think, like, how does the monetization part come in? Because you might eventually need to grow the team, actually hire people to help you out, because it does sound like a lot of work. So how do you plan on like growing in terms of financially growing the Darkania Works?
Well, let's speak about Last Days of Lazarus and then about the financial plan, let's say, for Darkania Works. With Last Days of Lazarus being my first solo project, I want to keep it like solo until the end, let's say. But I have actually a publisher, which actually it's a good friend, a friend of mine, and a really talented guy who also has a small studio. He's also a solo developer and develops small games for Switch. And he's gonna help me release the game on Xbox and Switch because he has dev kit, he has a lot of experience, he has a lot of knowledge in this, and I'm really thankful for this because I couldn't do it by myself. So yeah, he's going to help me with this. So that's the plan. My hope is that after releasing the game on Steam, it's gonna be financially satisfying or financially stable. So in the next months, we can work on releasing the game on consoles. That would be great. Because it's very important to have the game. If you have the game, releasing it on other consoles, while it poses some challenges, you already have the game. So that's one huge step. And if it's gonna be a success and it's gonna sell, that's even better.
Absolutely. So
for the Darkania Works financial plan, I really don't know. I really hope that Last Days of Lazarus won't be a failure. But I think that being my first project and developing it all by myself, let's say, that I don't have to give percent to percent of the sales to various, um,
Stakeholders or
exactly stakeholders and stuff like this. So that's my hope with Last Days of Lazarus for the future. I want to keep it small. I don't want to grow a huge company. I want to to enjoy my life as a husband and probably as a father. I don't want to get involved in business and papers and stuff like this. I'm not good at this, and I don't want to do it. I want to make games. I want to have fun and just live. So I want to continue with Darkania Works and working on other games, mostly like this, because uh, that's the best thing I know how to do. And I don't think that employing people would be a good idea in a situation like this, because most of the stuff that I need to be done it doesn't take a lot of time. So the better idea would be to contract people, contract a character artist, and you pay him 1,000 euros. I don't know how much it costs, and he's gonna make you a character in a given time, and that's it. You don't have to employ him and suddenly start not. If your relation with the employer is not good, what you're gonna do? So yeah, that's the main idea. And there are a lot of companies that do these things. For example, are a lot of Romanian artists working on Witcher, and they worked on contract. They made characters, they made clothes, they made props, and they weren't literally employed in that company. They've been paid for this, and they did a great job.
That's a very good point. I think one point that you mentioned is that do as much as you can by yourself. The rest you can contract because they're very particular things, and that way you keep control of where everything goes, and reduce the risk or liabilities involved in hiring a bigger team. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, and that relates to another fact that making the game itself, the playable game itself, it's not that difficult if you know your limits and if you don't go further above the level of expertise. You can do it. It's not that difficult these days.
That's really encouraging. I might just download the engine later today. All right, so that's pretty interesting. What are those things that, at least for Last Days of Lazarus, that you can't do in house, that you have to outsource because you won't be able to do it by yourself?
Well, obviously, it's going to be voice acting. So while I might do some voice acting, actually, in the trailer, I did a bit of voice acting on the phone when he calls
Oh.
the emergency and says that I forgot what he says. You're the list of our priority, blah blah blah. I did that voice part, but no, I'm gonna do something like really, really minimum, really unnoticeable, unimportant voice acting stuff. Yeah, so I'm going to outsource voice acting and perhaps work with with some company to have a press release or someone to build a bit of momentum upon release or at some moments. That's my plan actually.
That's great. Yeah, we'll definitely be here to help you out with promoting however we can. I think we're really proud of somehow being part of the project and promoting our community members. So that sounds really exciting. Do you have an estimated date of the launch date?
Yeah, we plan to release in the beginning of the next year, Q1 or something like this, the first part of the next year, 2021. That's it.
Awesome. Sounds great.
2021.
2021. Yes, this year. It's already mid-August.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
been quick year. Well, on my end, sorry, we have another question here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
Please.
Does this mean you don't have any other option but well, this is related to the financial aspect of not being able to hire more team members or being a solo dev? It was a follow-up question. So does this mean you don't have any other option but to have another job on the side to pay for the bills, and that you can only work on your game project on holidays or free time weekend?
Well, I don't have a side job.
You're doing this full
It's
time,
really
correct?
catastrophic. Yeah, I'm doing this full time. Well, I have a few assets on Unreal Marketplace, and there's little money coming from them. I have a beautiful, loving wife that helps me with, she works and she believes in what I'm doing, and she's really beside me and helps me. Yeah, that I'm kind of lucky with this, let's say. But yeah, if you don't have money, you don't have yeah, if you really cannot do it, you have to get a job and do this as a side project. But my experience is that it's gonna be, in my opinion, it's gonna be like a living hell to have a job and to come home really tired and to like find the motivation to work on. It's really not working, at least on a project as big, let's say, as Last Days of Lazarus is. So yeah, you have to sacrifice a lot. You really have to sacrifice a lot, and be grateful for everything you have. Try to value everything. For example, for me, it was a huge encouragement, the fact that and actually got the confidence from this fact that when I worked at Interactive Stone, I learned a lot from my colleagues. So, for example, I never imagined that one day I'm going to start implementing assets and let's programming with blueprints in Unreal Engine. But I learned from the programmer which worked on Grade 1, which was a great guy. So yeah, try to meet people, try to learn from them, try to value everything and be grateful for everything. That's how it works. And yeah, having a job, it's kind of difficult if you want to make a video game. If you want to make something really, really simple, you can do it. If you want to do something like literally simple, if you want to make like literally a walking simulator, you can do it like this. You buy an asset, something like D-Resta, for example. If you have ever heard of D-Resta, it's a walking simulator on which you walk on a beach.
Okay.
And there's a story that it's narrated in your earphones. That's everything. That's literally everything.
Sounds relaxing.
So it's not difficult to do that. You go on Marketplace, you buy a beautiful environment, the most beautiful environment. It's going to cost you around $2,200. I know a few packages which I'm also using. You're going to put there the map in your engine. You're going to add a first-person player, like literally drag and drop. You're going to add a few beautiful sounds and beautiful narration if you are good at writing, and you just push build the game. That's mostly it doesn't take a lot of time. It doesn't take a lot of time. But if you want to do something more complex, if you want to add puzzles, if you want to add characters, if you want to add really complex voice acting and stuff like how I have in Last Days of Lazarus, it's going to take a lot of time. And eventually you'll have to have a job.
Yeah.
Or a sponsor or a publisher or something like this.
No, absolutely. You mentioned you talked about the Romanian scene for game development. There's a question here about what's the local game dev scene like in your country? Do many people think about developing games and making a living out of it?
There are many people that really think of that this is a really profitable. It's a really good business. Yeah, it's true. But again, it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of work, and not many succeed. Not many succeed. Most of them are stuck. Most of them try to work on projects. They think big, and at some point, they're simply getting stuck. They don't have money. They start running out of money, and they end up looking for a job. But yeah, it's a good business if you can do it, if you have the patience, if you're smart enough, if you're a hard worker. It definitely works. It definitely works. And maybe it's not going to be your first game that it's going to be a success. It's not always the case, but you have to be persistent in this. For example, for me, I could have very well, after I left from Interactive Stone, to go and find a job, but that wasn't my plan. I started doing this. I had a friendly environment, and I had luck, and that's what I'm doing now. But yeah, the gaming industry makes thousands upon thousands of dollars. It's a really profitable industry. If you want to do it, do it. Yeah, absolutely. There are a lot of guys that are doing this in Romania. We have a nice Discord community. People are being really helpful. It's like actually they really help you. You say they really help the algorithm on the internet, on Facebook and stuff like this, on Imgur or stuff like this. Yeah, it's a starting point. If you are from Romania, definitely go on Discord and search for RGDA. And if you are from other country, look on your local community. Definitely, if there are in Romania, definitely there's gonna be in the Western Europe. Absolutely.
Awesome. We have one last question here, and it's more about you as a game creator. What do you think your biggest strengths are, and what are your weaknesses? What do you plan on? How do you plan on working on those weaknesses as a game
Well,
creator?
strengths. That's the $1 billion question. Well, you know, I can do a lot with little. I don't have a lot of money, but I can push towards what I dream. I really love what I'm doing. I know those are kind of soft stuff about, but that's key point in my way of doing stuff. Um, I like to do things in a different way that most of the people would do. For example, I really love I really love the, the Eastern mysticism, for example, the Eastern philosophy, and that's kind of unique. You don't find this in video games. Like in Grey Dawn, you don't find a lot of games that showcase, in particular, the idyllic Romanian landscape, the Eastern Orthodoxy, for example. Yeah, that's really interesting stuff. Think of Witcher.
Yeah.
It's quite unique. Think of the Japanese games, those anime stuff. They're really specific to their culture. You might like it or may dislike it, but they are really true to their culture. So that's, I think, one of my strengths, that I tend to stay true to the culture I'm living in. It's the easiest way I can find inspiration. I just walk through streets. I walk in a forest. I walk somewhere else, and that's how it is. As weaknesses, as I told you, I'm alone in this. I'm mostly alone. I'm not literally alone, but like, as on a daily basis, I'm working on a daily basis alone, and that puts a lot of pressure on me. So I tend to have mood shifts. I have moments when, right now, I'm really excited about what I'm doing, and the next moment I think the world is gonna end, and the world is really gonna end if you look on the TV.
Yes.
Another weak point is that, I'm not really good at the organizing, paper stuff, things related to the company, and there's gonna be someone helping me with this. So yeah, I don't have experience with this. I don't think it's a nice thing to shuffle papers around, to move papers from one desk to another. I'm really not good at this, and I know it's important. It's really important when you start founding your company. What else? There's something that really starts being a reality as when you work solo. The fact that you become less and less, I don't want to use the word tolerant, but you become less and less permissive or something like this to feedback. You kind of start becoming rigid. You get angry really easy when someone tries to give you feedback. It happens. And it is because you're just living alone in that bubble. And when people come from outside, they like literally, you see them coming with toothpicks, trying
Yeah,
to
picking up on
pop your,
everything.
yeah, and they're trying to pop up your bubble, your soap bubble. Yeah, that's another thing. You kind of changing, you kind of getting more grumpy when you work alone. And people told me that I kind of became like this.
It,
Yeah,
it
that's another weakness, that you kind of, if you want to get employed after years and years of working alone, there might be some surprises. There might be some surprises. I
to
don't want
say
to
the
get employed.
least. Yeah. That's actually related to a new question that we got, and
Hmm.
it basically says, it's by Jordan, says, I had a vision for a game and quit my job. I put all my heart into this project but failed as I ran out of funds. How do you deal with the challenges and how does it affect your mental state?
Oh, Jordan, let me tell you something. I kind of never had money. You know, in I don't know where are you from, but I presume you're from from the Western Europe, or from America, or from whatever. Uh, you know, if it is about money, try to put aside money. But it's difficult to give you an advice. Maybe you are a father, maybe you have children, maybe at some point, if it's really undoable, if you cannot do it, and if really money are really important, you have to help your parents, for example. Maybe they have health problems, maybe, yeah, you have kids, you have to, they are more important than the video game. you know that's difficult. I cannot give you an advice of renounce the game and just find a job and sustain your family. But if you are alone in this, I don't know. If you are young, you can go crazy and eat once a day, as I did for many years. I was really thin years ago. Now I'm kind of fat. But yeah, if you're alone, it requires discipline. It requires sacrifice. I don't have, like, as I told you, my budget is little to none. Uh, I Let me think. Right now, I have half of the game finished, and to give you a number, I guess I've spent on this game around, let's say, $3,000. That much.
For a full
And
game?
those, yeah, for everything I have now, and it's half of the game. I haven't done voice acting. I haven't done any localization. That's gonna add up. Try to find free resources. Try to find friends that are gonna at least encourage you to continue. I don't know what to say, but if you really love it and you don't have a family to support, and you don't have duties, if you're not a parent, just try again. It's business. You fail once, you do it again. I know it's personal. I don't want to imagine. For me, after I released Grey Dawn, it wasn't a huge success. I mean, it sold a few copies. It sold, but we had to give percent to various companies, to our founder, publisher, financer company. We had to give a lot of a lot of percent, a lot of money. So we ended up with, right now, for example, 2 years after the release, I'm almost getting nothing, almost nothing, only in sales, a little money. So yeah, that could have been really disastrous for me. I dreamed of having a nice home somewhere in an idyllic place. That isn't the case right now. I'm living in a small apartment. It's very hot. I don't have conditional air. So yeah, try to do it again if you don't have obligations. You don't have a family.
I really admire your resilience, and I think what you talked about, the priorities, is very important to have in hand when you're looking into jump into this endeavor. So it's really valuable that you give us your feedback on that, because despite having great on have certain success, that you still have to keep going on. You can't have a one game success. I mean, it happens, it has happened to some people. But you know, you have to keep trying if you want to make success out of your passion, like you're doing right now. So that's really admirable on that end.
And again, one short thing I want to say, it's about imposing some limits, setting you some limits to you. There are people in Romania that have 2,000 euros salaries, and they are not pleased with this. They still think that they don't have money, while there are other people that have around $500 a month, and they are really, really okay. They don't need something else. It's literally about your lifestyle, about your expenses. For some people, the game development journey. I remember when I was in the faculty, there were some guys that came to me and they said that they want to make a video game. At that time, I didn't knew a lot of video game. I knew a bit of 3D modeling, and they asked me to help them create a video game. And they looked for we are three guys, and they looked for a sponsor. They found someone stinky rich in America who promised like around 3,000 euros for each a month. That was a huge sum of money. I don't know where are you from, but from Romania. For Romania, this is like, oh my God, I'm the richest guy in the country, except for the mafia. Yeah. So this guy came with this offer, and those guys, I was like, literally, I didn't have money to pay my rent. I didn't have. When I heard this, I said, this must be a joke. And that guy was really serious. He started sending us equipment. Like literally, he sent us a huge PC with an incredible configurations, with incredible specs, a really expensive PC, and everything was brand new. Like that guy was really serious. Yeah. And those guys that asked me to help them create the game, my Romanian fellow friends, they suddenly thought that if this guy can give you $3,000 a month, he might as well give you $5,000. So they started asking for more and more and more from this guy. And the American dude kind of smelled at some point that something is really fishy. And he just one day ended everything. He took his computer, he took everything. It was really chaotic. So apart from this funny story that happened, you have to set yourself some limits. Think of it. Is 1,000 euro making a huge difference? For me, it wouldn't. If I would have 2,000 euros a month or 1,000 euros a month, yeah, it's a huge difference of money if you think of it. But you know, I could go get a job and get 2,000 euro, let's say, which is not going to happen in Romania at least. But I can do it with 1,000 euros a month. If this game makes 1,000 euros a month, let's hope so. It's going to be perfect. Why would I go and get employed for 2,000? Why would I would be someone's employee? I wouldn't make my dreams. Yeah,
that's very, very valuable advice. We have one last question here, and it's very interesting, and it's very close to what I wanted to ask you as a closing question. It's basically, what are your top 3 favorite games all time, and have they inspired you in any present, past, or future work that you're thinking of?
Well, I'm not a huge gamer. I really suck at video games. I'm not even able to properly drive a car in Grand Theft Auto in GTA. I'm really a bad gamer. I mean, I was about to say a game developer. I'm really a bad gamer. You know, I'm just gonna say the titles of the games I played the most. Diablo, definitely Diablo. Though I really didn't enjoy Diablo 3, but you know, not having another Diablo title, newer Diablo title, I played Diablo 3 like for years I played, and I'm really excited for the new one. I really love because it's really dark and oh my god, I really love it. I cannot wait for it. It's gonna be Diablo. It's gonna be I really love city builders actually. I really love. I recently bought Anno 1 1008. Their last title. I'm really not good at numbers in English. Yeah, their last title, and it's really great. I spent uh, a lot of time playing that game. Even now, I have it installed, but I thought of uninstalling it because I end up in the middle of the night playing it alone, and it's really not good for my health. Yeah, so it'd be city builders. I love strategy games. I really love Age of Empires.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, as you can see, I'm kind of playing video games that I would kind of never work on. I love actually watching gameplays from adventure games,
Okay.
like adventure horror games, let's say, because my interest is mostly in the horror genre, and I'm watching it because I'm I'm really not a patient guy, and I really don't have the patience to search for keys and papers. That's why my games, they're kind of Grey Dawn was criticized for being like by some person by being too easy. Like
Okay.
you find really quick, but I made it how I would play it. I don't want to get stuck and spend a lot of time searching for a key just to, you know. Yeah, so I like. I'm excited for the new Resident Evil game because I understand that a huge part of the action is taking place in Romania, and I'm really curious how they're gonna pull this off because it's not made by Romanians, but the action takes place in Romania, and they're using folklore and they're using Dracula. What else? I don't know. Yeah, survival horror game. Obviously, I play the Silent Hill games. Um, yeah. As I told you, I'm not a huge gamer. I really play mostly to relax. When I play Anno, for example, I turn the sound to minimum. I put some rain in my earphones, and I'm thinking about Last Days of Lazarus,
Nice.
despite the beautiful sunny graphics.
All right. That about sums it up. To be honest, again thank you so much for joining us on our
You're
very
welcome.
first edition of Gaming Wednesday on live stream. I'll obviously we'll talk after this. I really appreciate it, and I think our audience, we've had an average of 25 viewers overall, but they're very engaged. Thank you everyone for your questions. Thank you
Thank you very
for
much.
all the follows. So appreciate it, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and have a nice day or evening.
Yeah, we can
To
tell
me,
the
it's
time
already
difference. We can tell
it's
the time
night.
difference.
Yeah, have fun.
All right. See ya. All right. So thank you everyone for joining. Thank you so much for the questions, for participating. If you have any other questions, you can send me an email. Let me write that down on the chat so that you all can get it. And this video games at bunnystudio.com. You can send any proposals of people that you want us to interview, people who you want us to engage, and have overall more information about Bunny Studio, what we're working on. Remember, we can do everything from voiceover for your video game characters, video game trailer, audio post edits, audio ads, anything that is creative services, translation, localizations, over 50 languages that we work with, over 28,000 professionals that we work with, from voiceover, design, audio and video editing. So check us out, and until next time, bye bye. Thank you.